Sarah had learned long ago to ignore the sounds in the night. The forest was full of them. Owls hunting, deer moving through the underbrush, branches creaking in the wind. After 5 years of living alone in the abandoned cottage at the edge of Whispering Woods, she'd become intimately familiar with every normal noise the darkness could produce. This sound wasn't normal. It started as a low hum, almost like singing. But not quite. Musical and haunting, it seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Sarah sat up in bed, her white hair spilling over her shoulders, her pale pink eyes straining to see through the darkness. The sound grew louder, more insistent, calling to something deep inside her chest that had been dormant for years. She should have stayed in bed, should have pulled the covers over her head and waited for dawn. That was what she always did when something strange happened. Stay hidden, stay safe, stay alive. But the sound was so beautiful, so achingly familiar, like a half-remembered lullaby from childhood, from before everything went wrong. Before she fully realized what she was doing, Sarah had crossed the small room and was standing at the front door, her hand on the iron handle. The smart thing would be to bar the door and hide. The smart thing would be to remember what happened to albino omegas who drew attention to themselves. The smart thing would be to remember why she was hiding in this cottage in the first place. Her parents' faces flashed through her mind. Her mother, Elise, with her unusual silver blonde hair that had marked her as different, even before Sarah was born, even more unusual. Her father, Marcus, who'd loved them both fiercely, despite the whispers and stares. They'd been healers in the Redwood Pack, respected for their skills, but always kept at arm's length because of their strange daughter. Sarah had been 10 when the Pack's alpha decided her appearance was a bad omen. White hair, pink eyes, skin so pale it was almost translucent. He'd claimed she was cursed, that her presence would bring misfortune to the Pack. When her parents refused to abandon her, refused to send her away to live with distant relatives who might hide her, the Alpha had made their lives impossible. Constant harassment, denied resources, excluded from Pack gatherings. Her father had finally decided they'd leave together, start over somewhere new. But the night before they were supposed to go, there'd been an attack. Rogues, the Pack claimed. But Sarah had been old enough to understand that rogues didn't usually target specific houses, didn't specifically go after a family that had become an inconvenience to their alpha. Her parents had hidden her in a cellar space they'd prepared, told her to stay quiet no matter what she heard. She'd listened to the sounds above, the fighting, the screams, the final terrible silence. When she'd finally emerged the next morning, her parents were gone, their bodies taken away, and the Alpha had looked at her with cold satisfaction. "The rogues must have taken you for dead," he'd said. "Lucky for you. Now pack your things. You've got 1 hour before we escort you to the border." She'd been 10 years old. 10 years old and utterly alone, with nothing but a bag of clothes, her mother's journal of healing knowledge, and her grandmother's necklace with a moon symbol that she'd been told to never remove. The Pack had dumped her at the edge of their territory and warned her never to return. She'd survived 5 years on the run before she'd found this cottage, abandoned and forgotten deep in Whispering Woods. She'd been 15 then, exhausted from constantly moving, from the fear of being discovered and hurt again. The cottage had been her sanctuary, her hiding place, and she'd convinced herself she could live here forever, alone and safe. But Sarah had been alone for so long now, 20 years old, and she'd spent half her life in solitude. And the sound was calling to her with such urgency that her hand moved of its own accord, lifting the bar and pulling the door open. The sight that greeted her stole the breath from her lungs. Wolves, dozens of them. No more than that. Maybe 100. They filled her small yard, spilled out into the forest beyond, their eyes glowing in the moonlight like stars. But these weren't normal wolves. They were massive, powerful, and they all bore the same mark on their right shoulders, a crown wreathed in thorns. The symbol of the Northern Crown Pack. The symbol of the Alpha King. Sarah's heart stopped. She'd spent 5 years hiding from pack wolves, avoiding any settlement larger than a trading post, living off the land and keeping her distinctive appearance concealed beneath hoods and cloaks. And now, the most powerful pack in the entire territory had found her. She tried to close the door, but it was too late. The wolves had seen her. And more importantly, they weren't attacking, they weren't even growling. They were simply watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle with awareness. The singing sound had stopped the moment she opened the door, but now a new sound replaced it. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate, coming from the direction of the forest path. The wolves parted like water, creating a clear corridor, and through it walked a man. No, not a man. The Alpha King. Sarah had never seen him before, but she knew who he was instantly. No one else could command such presence, such power. He was tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in dark leathers meant for travel, with silver hair that gleamed in the moonlight and eyes that burned gold. He moved with predatory grace, and every wolf in the yard lowered their heads in submission as he passed. He stopped 10 feet from her door, his gaze locking onto her face with an intensity that made her want to flee. But she was frozen, unable to move, unable to look away, unable to do anything but stand there in her thin nightdress and bare feet, while the most powerful werewolf in the north studied her like she was a puzzle he needed to solve. "Sarah," he said, and his voice was deep and commanding, the kind of voice that expected to be obeyed. "Sarah of the White Moon bloodline, I've been searching for you for 3 years." Sarah's throat was too dry to speak. How did he know her name? How did he know about her bloodline? She'd never told anyone. Her grandmother had made her mother swear never to reveal what they were, never to let anyone discover the truth. "You don't need to be afraid," the Alpha King continued, taking a single step closer. "I'm not here to harm you. I'm here because I need you, because my pack needs you, because the entire North needs you." Sarah found her voice, forcing it to stay steady. "I don't understand. I'm nobody, just someone trying to survive. How did you even find me?" "Your mother kept records," he said simply. "Hidden, encrypted, but records nonetheless. When I gained access to the old archives 3 years ago, I found references to the White Moon bloodline, to moon singers. And I found a letter your grandmother had written to my predecessor, begging for protection for her daughter and granddaughter. He'd refused. I didn't." He gestured to the wolves surrounding them. "We've been searching every forest, every abandoned settlement, following every rumor of a white-haired Omega living alone. And tonight, my wolves felt you. They sang the old songs, the ones that resonate with Moonsinger blood, and you heard them. You answered." "Moonsinger." The words came out as barely a whisper. Her grandmother had told her mother's stories, and her mother had whispered them to Sarah. Women born under rare celestial alignments, marked by white hair and pale eyes, who could sing songs of power that affected the very fabric of reality. They could heal with their voice, could calm savage beasts, could even influence the emotions of other wolves. But that was legend. Myth. It couldn't be real. "I can't sing," Sarah said, shaking her head. "I've never had any power. I'm just an albino. There's nothing special about me except the way I look. And that's only ever caused problems." The Alpha King's eyes narrowed, and something like sympathy crossed his face. "Is that what they told you? The pack that killed your parents and threw you out? That you were nothing but a problem?" The casual confirmation of what she'd always suspected, that her parents had been murdered rather than killed by rogues, hit her like a physical blow. "How do you know about that?" "Because I made it my business to know everything about you once I discovered you existed," he said bluntly. "The Redwood Pack's Alpha was executed 2 years ago for various crimes, including the murder of 2 pack healers and the abandonment of a child. It took me that long to gather enough evidence, but justice was served. Too late for your parents, but served nonetheless." Sarah felt her knees go weak. Someone had actually held them accountable. Someone had cared enough to investigate. Why? She whispered. Why would you do that for people you never met? Because moon singers are sacred, he said simply. And those who harm them or their families deserve death. Your parents died protecting you, protecting what you are. The least I could do was ensure their murderer faced consequences. He took another step closer, and Sarah could see the exhaustion in his face now, the lines of strain around his eyes. But I didn't search for you just to tell you about justice for your parents. I searched for you because I'm desperate. My pack is dying, Sarah, and you're the only one who can save us. Dying how? Sarah asked, her healer's instincts kicking in despite her fear. A curse, the Alpha King said, and his voice was heavy with despair. 3 years ago, we drove a witch from our lands. She'd been experimenting on wolves, trying to create some kind of super soldier by binding feral wolf spirits to shifters. When we stopped her and exiled her, she cursed our bloodlines in revenge. She poisoned our magic at its source. He gestured to the wolves around them, and Sarah looked more carefully. Now that she was paying attention, she could see it. Some of the wolves moved stiffly, their bodies clearly in pain. Others had a wildness in their eyes that spoke of losing control. Some were scarred, as if they'd been fighting each other. Our wolves are becoming feral, losing their humanity, the Alpha King continued. Our pups are being born without the ability to shift. Our elders are wasting away, their wolves consuming them from the inside. We've tried everything, every healer, every ritual, every solution we could find. Nothing has worked. His golden eyes met hers with desperate intensity. The witch made sure the curse could only be broken by a moon singer. She knew we'd hunted your bloodline nearly to extinction centuries ago, when our ancestors feared your power. She thought she was sentencing us to a slow death, watching my pack crumble with no hope of salvation. But she didn't know about you. She didn't know that one last moon singer survived, hidden and protected, waiting to be found. Sarah felt tears burning in her eyes, an entire pack suffering, dying. And they'd come to her, an Omega with no training, no understanding of the gift she supposedly carried. I told you I can't sing, I don't have any power. Even if what you say is true, even if I'm descended from moon singers, the gift didn't pass to me. I'm just an albino Omega with a rare bloodline. I can't help you. The gift is there, the Alpha King insisted, and there was absolute certainty in his voice. I can feel it. My wolves can feel it. It's dormant, suppressed, but it exists. The fact that you heard our song proves it. No one else heard anything tonight. Just you. He held out his hand, a gesture of offering rather than demand. I can help you awaken it. I have ancient texts, teachers who've studied the old ways. I can train you, guide you, teach you to access the power that your grandmother kept hidden to protect you. But I need you to come with me. I need you to try. Sarah stared at his outstretched hand, her mind racing. Trust him. Trust the Alpha King. Trust a pack. Everything she'd been taught, everything she'd learned through bitter experience, screamed at her to refuse. Packs couldn't be trusted. They'd use her and discard her. They'd killed her parents for refusing to abandon her. But this Alpha had hunted down her parents' murderer, had spent 3 years searching for her, not to harm her, but to ask for help, had brought his entire guard here and was standing in front of her cottage, offering his hand rather than demanding her compliance. If I can't do it, Sarah said carefully, if I try and the gift isn't there, what happens to me? The Alpha King met her eyes steadily. Then I'll return you here to your cottage with enough supplies and gold to live comfortably for the rest of your life. You'll be under my personal protection, and no wolf will ever bother you again. I give you my word. And if I can do it, if I break the curse, then you'll have saved my pack, he said simply, and I'll owe you a debt that can never be fully repaid. Name your price, anything you want. It's yours. Sarah looked past him at the wolves filling her yard. In the moonlight, she could see them more clearly now. Some were scarred, Some moved stiffly, clearly in pain. Some had eyes that gleamed with a wildness that spoke of the feral curse he'd described. They were suffering. And they'd come here, to her, because she was their last hope. She thought of her parents, who'd given their lives to protect her. Of her grandmother, who'd kept the secret of their bloodline, even when it meant isolation and fear. They'd sacrificed everything to keep her safe. Could she really turn her back on people who needed help, just to stay safe herself? Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. True healers don't pick and choose who to help based on whether it's safe, little moon. They help because it's right. Sarah took a deep breath and placed her hand in his. I'll come with you. I'll try. But I'm making no promises about whether this will work. Relief flooded the Alpha King's face, transforming him. He bowed, actually bowed to her, this powerful leader who commanded armies and ruled territories. Thank you. You don't know what hope you've just given us. What's your name? Sarah asked. I can't keep calling you Alpha King. He smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes and made him look years younger. Theron. My name's Theron, and I promise you, Sarah, I'll protect you with my life. You'll want for nothing. You'll be treated with the highest honor. And when this is over, whether you succeed or not, you'll have my eternal gratitude. Sarah nodded, trying to steady her racing heart. Give me a moment to pack my things. She turned to go back inside, but Theron's voice stopped her. Sarah, one more thing. The curse affects me as well. My wolf is slowly taking over, becoming more aggressive, harder to control. I have perhaps 6 months before I lose myself completely and have to be put down for the pack's safety. So please, understand that we truly are running out of time. The journey to Northern Crown Pack territory took a week. Theron had brought horses and supplies, and he treated Sarah with a courtesy that surprised her. He never pushed her to ride faster than was comfortable, made sure she had the best food and the warmest blankets, and stationed guards around her tent each night to ensure her safety. The wolves traveled with them, a massive pack that flowed through the forest like a living shadow. Sarah learned their names, or at least the names of the ones who stayed closest to her tent. There was Storm, a massive gray wolf with intelligent amber eyes who served as Theron's second in command. When he shifted to human form, he was a man in his 40s with silver-streaked dark hair and a kind smile. My daughter's one of the afflicted, he told Sarah one evening as they made camp. She's 14, can't shift anymore, can barely remember being a wolf. If you can help her, if you can help any of them, you'll have my loyalty for life. Then there was Ember, a russet-colored female wolf who was fierce and protective. She was younger, maybe mid-20s, and had lost her mate to the feral madness 6 months ago. He didn't recognize me at the end, she said quietly, her voice thick with grief. Attacked me like I was a stranger. We had to put him down. If this curse isn't broken soon, more families will have to make that choice. And there was Ash, a white wolf with ice-blue eyes who rarely spoke but watched everything with careful attention. He was Theron's personal guard, had been since they were children. I've known the Alpha since we were pups, he said during one of the rare moments he shifted to human form. He's the best leader we've ever had, strong, fair, compassionate. Watching the curse slowly take him is killing all of us, not just because he's our Alpha, but because he's family. Through their stories, Sarah began to understand the full scope of what the curse was doing. It wasn't just a magical affliction, it was destroying families, breaking bonds, turning the pack against itself as wolves went feral and had to be contained or killed. The Northern Crown Pack had been strong once, prosperous and peaceful. Now they were fracturing, holding on by their claws, waiting for salvation that might never come. Sarah found herself watching Theron as they traveled. He checked on his wolves constantly, making sure the afflicted ones weren't pushing themselves too hard, encouraging those who were losing hope, never showing his own fear, even though she could see it in the tightness around his eyes. He was a good leader, a good man, and he was dying, just like his pack. When they finally arrived at the Northern Crown compound, Sarah was stunned by what she saw. It was enormous, a fortress built into the side of a mountain with walls that seemed to touch the clouds. It must have been magnificent once. Now it felt like a beautiful corpse, slowly decaying. As they rode through the gates, Sarah noticed the signs of the curse everywhere. The compound was too quiet. There were wolves on the walls, wolves in the courtyards, but they moved slowly, mechanically. Some had bandages, some wore restraints, some were locked in cages, snarling and snapping at anyone who came close, their eyes completely feral. "The ones who've lost themselves completely," Theron said quietly, following her gaze. "We try to keep them comfortable, but once a wolf goes fully feral, there's no bringing them back. All we can do is make sure they don't hurt themselves or others. We're hoping that if the curse is broken, they might recover. But we don't know." Sarah felt her chest tighten with sympathy. This was what the curse was doing, turning proud, intelligent wolves into mindless beasts. It was cruel, inhumane, and if she could do anything to stop it, she had to try. Theron led her to a suite of rooms in the highest tower with windows that overlooked the entire territory. It was beautiful and luxurious, with soft furniture and warm colors, and a fireplace already lit. "This is yours," he said, "for as long as you're here. You'll have privacy, guards for your protection, and anything you need. Just ask." "It's too much," Sarah protested. "You're the person who might save us all," Theron interrupted gently. "You deserve comfort and respect. Please, accept it." After he left, Sarah stood at the window and looked out over the compound. In the courtyard below, she could see wolves going about their evening routines, training, eating, talking, trying to maintain normalcy despite the shadow of the curse hanging over them. They looked so normal, so alive. And they were all depending on her. An Omega who'd spent 5 years hiding in the woods, who didn't even know if she had the gift they needed. The weight of it settled on her shoulders like a physical thing. The training began the next morning. Theron introduced her to Vera, the pack's head healer and lore-keeper. She was an elderly woman with kind eyes and hands twisted by arthritis. "I've been studying Moonsinger legends for 3 years," Vera said, as she led Sarah to a training room filled with ancient texts and musical instruments. "Ever since the curse was laid, and we realized only a Moonsinger could break it. I won't lie to you, child. The information we have is fragmentary at best, but we'll figure it out together." They tried everything over the following weeks, singing scales, chanting in old languages that Vera had painstakingly translated, breathing exercises, meditation techniques meant to awaken dormant magic, visualization practices. Nothing worked. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah felt like a failure with each passing moment. She could carry a tune, but there was no power in her voice, no magic, no gift. Just an albino Omega trying desperately to be something she wasn't. The pack was kind to her, always respectful, but she could see the hope dying in their eyes. Storm's daughter was getting worse, barely speaking anymore. Ember had stopped smiling entirely. Ash had taken to standing guard outside the feral wolves' cages, as if he could somehow protect his alpha from that fate by proximity alone. And Theron was failing. Sarah could see it more clearly each day. The way his hands shook sometimes, the way his eyes would flash red when he was frustrated or angry, the wolf trying to surface at inappropriate times, the way he'd excuse himself abruptly from meetings, clearly fighting for control. One evening, after another fruitless training session, Sarah sat on the floor of the practice room, exhausted and discouraged. Vera had left to check on a patient, and Sarah was alone with her failure. The door opened, and Theron entered. He looked exhausted, his hair disheveled, his shirt partially unbuttoned like he'd been clawing at it. "Bad day?" he asked, his voice rough. "Every day's a bad day lately," Sarah admitted. "I can't do it, Theron. I've tried everything. The gift isn't there. I'm so sorry. I'm failing you. I'm failing everyone. Theron sat down beside her on the floor, close but not touching. You're not failing anyone. You're trying. That's more than I had any right to ask. But it's not working, Sarah said, tears spilling down her cheeks. And you're running out of time. Your pack is running out of time. Storm's daughter is getting worse. The feral wolves are attacking each other now. People are starting to lose hope. And I'm useless. You're not useless, Theron said firmly. He reached out and gently wiped away her tears with his thumb. You're brave. You're kind. You left everything behind to help strangers. You've worked yourself to exhaustion every single day, trying to access a power you don't even know if you have. That's not useless. That's extraordinary. Sarah looked at him through her tears, and something shifted inside her. Over the past weeks, she'd come to know Theron as more than just the Alpha King. He was patient with the children who'd lost the ability to shift, spending hours with them, teaching them that they were still valuable, even without their wolves. He was compassionate with the families of the feral wolves, personally visiting them to offer support. He stayed up late reviewing medical reports, searching desperately for any solution he might have missed. He carried the weight of his pack's suffering on his shoulders, and never once complained. Never once blamed her for not being able to help fast enough. Never once made her feel like the failure she knew she was. And she was falling in love with him. The realization hit her like a thunderbolt. She loved him. This powerful, kind, desperate man who'd searched for her for 3 years, who'd avenged her parents, who'd asked for her help rather than demanding it, who treated her with respect and honor even when she couldn't give him what he needed. Theron, she whispered, I need to tell you something. What is it? His golden eyes were focused on her with such intensity that she almost lost her nerve. I think I'm starting to feel something for you, something more than gratitude or obligation. And I don't know if that's appropriate given the circumstances, but I needed you to know. Theron's eyes widened, and then he smiled, slow and genuine. Sarah? I've been fighting those same feelings since the moment I saw you standing in your doorway, bathed in moonlight, looking like a dream made real. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to pressure you, didn't want you to think I expected anything in return for my protection. But if you feel even a fraction of what I feel for you, then I'm the luckiest man alive. He cupped her face in his hands, his touch gentle despite his size. I love you, Sarah. I love your courage, your kindness, your determination. I love the way you refuse to give up, even when you think you failed. I love the way you've learned every single pack member's name. How you visit the feral wolves, even though it scares you. How you cry when you hear about another family torn apart by this curse. I love everything about you. And whether you can break the curse or not, that'll never change. Sarah's heart felt like it might burst. I love you too, she whispered. And I'm so sorry I can't save your pack. I'm sorry I'm not what you need me to be. You already have saved us, Theron said. You gave us hope. You tried when no one else would. You showed us that someone in this world cared enough about strangers to risk everything to help them. That's more than enough. He leaned in to kiss her, and the moment their lips touched, something inside Sarah exploded. It wasn't like anything she'd ever felt before. Power flooded through her body, pure and brilliant and overwhelming. It felt like lightning and sunlight and moonlight all at once, burning through her veins, filling her lungs, expanding her chest until she thought she might shatter from the pressure. She gasped against Theron's mouth, and the sound that emerged wasn't a gasp at all. It was a note. Clear and pure and impossibly beautiful. It rang out from somewhere deep inside her chest, from a place she hadn't known existed. The note filled the practice room, spilling out into the corridor beyond, resonating through the stone walls of the fortress, like the room itself was singing along. Sarah pulled back from Theron, her eyes wide with wonder, and the note continued. She couldn't stop it, didn't want to stop it. The power flowed through her like water, natural and effortless, and she understood in that crystalline moment what had been missing all along: emotion, connection, love. The Moon Singer gift wasn't something that could be forced or trained into existence through technique and repetition. It was something that emerged when the singer's heart was open, when they were connected to something greater than themselves, when they cared so deeply about something that the music became inevitable. Her grandmother must have known this, must have kept Sarah isolated, not just to protect her from those who'd hunt her, but because premature awakening of the gift could be dangerous. The power needed a mature heart, a developed sense of empathy, a deep well of emotion to draw from. A child couldn't handle it, but a woman who'd survived loss and loneliness, who'd learned compassion through suffering, who'd opened her heart to love despite every reason to keep it closed, she could. Sarah pulled back from Theron, her eyes wide with wonder, and began to sing in earnest. She didn't know the words. They came from somewhere ancient and instinctive, flowing out of her in a language older than memory, older than the packs, older than shifters themselves. It was the language of the moon goddess, the first song, the primal magic that had created their kind. The song spoke of healing and renewal, of breaking chains and lifting curses, of restoration and hope, and the indomitable spirit of those who refused to surrender to darkness. It spoke of love stronger than death, of sacrifice that redeemed, of the power that came from opening your heart, even when the world had given you every reason to close it. The power in the room intensified until the air itself seemed to glow. Sarah could feel it spreading outward, flowing through the walls, through the floors, through the very foundation of the fortress. It moved like water finding cracks, seeping into every corner, reaching every wolf in the compound, every afflicted soul within the territory. She could feel it touching them, cleansing them, purging the curse from their blood. The dark magic that the witch had woven into their very essence was being burned away by the pure light of Moon Singer song, unraveling like thread pulled from cloth, dissipating like smoke in wind. In the cages below, feral wolves began to calm. Their wild eyes cleared, the red fading back to natural colors. Their snarling stopped, replaced by whimpers of confusion and relief as their humanity returned. Some collapsed, exhausted from fighting the curse for so long. Others howled, but not in rage, in joy, in recognition, in gratitude. In the medical wards, sick wolves began to breathe easier. Fevers broke, pain faded. Children who hadn't been able to shift in months felt their wolves stir inside them, returning like old friends coming home. Parents wept as they watched their pups transform, healthy and whole and free of the curse that had stolen their birthright. Throughout the entire territory, the curse that had been slowly killing the Northern Crown Pack shattered like glass under a hammer, destroyed by the power of a Moon Singer's song. Every thread of dark magic, every poisoned connection, every corrupted bond was severed and cleansed, leaving nothing but pure, natural pack magic in its wake. Sarah sang until her voice began to give out, until the last traces of the curse had been burned away, until she was certain that every wolf, down to the smallest pup, had been healed. Then, finally, she let the song fade, the last note hanging in the air like a blessing, like a promise, like hope made manifest. She swayed, suddenly exhausted, and Theron caught her in his arms. "You did it," he breathed, his voice filled with awe and disbelief and overwhelming relief. "By the goddess, you actually did it. You broke the curse." Sarah looked up at him and saw that his eyes were clear, fully clear. The golden color was bright and steady, no longer tinged with the red of the encroaching feral state. The tension that had been slowly building in his body for months was gone. He was healed. They were all healed. "I love you," she said again, because it felt important to say. That was what unlocked it. Loving you. The gift doesn't come from training or technique. It comes from connection, from caring about something more than yourself, from opening your heart even when you're terrified of being hurt again. Theron kissed her again, deeper this time, pouring all his relief and love and gratitude into it. When they finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "Marry me," he said. "Not because I owe you, not because you saved my pack, but because I can't imagine spending my life with anyone else. Be my mate, my Luna, my partner in all things." Sarah smiled through her tears. "Yes, yes, I'll marry you. I'll stand beside you. I'll be your Luna, and your moon singer, and anything else you need me to be." "I just need you to be you," Theron said. "That's all I've ever needed." The sound of running footsteps made them both look up. Storm burst into the room, his face transformed by joy. "She shifted," he shouted. "My daughter shifted. She's whole again. She's—" His voice broke, and tears streamed down his weathered face. Thank you, Luna. You gave me back my child." More people came running. Ember, laughing and crying at the same time, reporting that the feral wolves were returning to themselves. Ash, his usual stoic expression cracked by a smile so wide it looked painful. Vera, weeping with relief as she reported that every patient in the medical ward was recovering. The entire compound came alive with celebration. Wolves howled in joy, the sound echoing through the mountains. Families reunited with loved ones they'd thought lost forever. Children shifted and played, delighting in abilities they'd never had or thought they'd lost. The darkness that had hung over the Northern Crown Pack for 3 years was finally gone. The wedding was held 1 month later, under a full moon that seemed to shine just for them. Every wolf in the Northern Crown Pack attended, healthy and whole, their eyes bright with joy and gratitude. Neighboring packs sent representatives, curious about the moon singer who'd broken an impossible curse, about the Luna who'd saved an entire territory from slow extinction. Sarah wore a dress of pure white, her pale hair adorned with silver flowers, and when she walked down the aisle to where Theron waited, she felt like she was finally home. Not the lonely cottage in the woods, but here, surrounded by people who valued her, protected her, loved her for exactly what she was. She was no longer the hidden albino Omega living alone, too afraid to show the world her face. She was Sarah, Luna of the Northern Crown Pack, the moon singer who'd broken an impossible curse, the woman who'd found love in the most unexpected place. And as Theron marked her neck, claiming her as his mate before the entire pack, she sang. A soft, sweet song of love and happiness that made everyone who heard it smile through their tears, that made the flowers bloom out of season, that made the stars shine just a little brighter. The curse was broken, the pack was saved, and Sarah had discovered that the greatest magic of all wasn't in songs or bloodlines or ancient gifts. It was in opening your heart to someone else and trusting them to keep it safe. It was in choosing love over fear, connection over safety, vulnerability over isolation. Years later, when young wolves would ask Luna Sarah how she'd saved the pack, she'd smile and tell them the truth. That power without purpose is meaningless. That gifts without connection are hollow. That magic is born from love, from sacrifice, from the willingness to help others even when you're afraid. She'd tell them about her parents, who died protecting her, about the pack that had thrown her out, about the 5 years she'd spent hiding, too afraid to show her face to the world. And she'd tell them about the night an alpha king and 100 wolves filled her yard, when a powerful man had offered his hand and asked for her help, when she'd chosen courage over fear and changed everything. Sometimes, she'd say, pulling some frightened young wolf close, the greatest strength comes not from hiding who you are, but from embracing it fully. From opening your heart even when you're terrified it'll be broken. From trusting that the world has good people in it, people who'll value you for exactly what you are. My gift didn't awaken through training or technique. It awakened through love, through connection, through finally believing that I deserved to be loved. And those young wolves would leave her presence standing a little taller, believing a little more firmly that their own differences weren't curses, but gifts waiting to be unwrapped, that their own fears could be overcome, that the world was full of people like Alpha King Theron, who'd search for 3 years just to find someone who needed help. The Moonsinger's gift would pass down through the bloodline, awakening in Sarah and Theron's children and grandchildren when they too learned that true power comes not from magic alone, but from the courage to love. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to the channel for more werewolf romance tales, alpha kings, rejected mates, and powerful omega stories. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Leave a comment below telling me what you thought of Sarah and Theron's story, and what kind of werewolf stories you'd like to see next. Your support means everything and helps me create more content like this. Thank you for reading, and I'll see you in the next story.